the roller coaster of life I've been on so far allows me to have the knowledge to help someone else today. I can't imagine what it's like for my mother when I was in that lifestyle, waiting for the phone to go that I was either in jail or dead. And one of the things I'm really passionate about is let's not put an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff when someone jumps. If we can stop them from jumping, that's probably a better solution. We have a sense of humanity all of a sudden, where we're all actually affected. This is not, I live in Australia, so this doesn't affect me anymore, or I live in the UK, so it doesn't affect me anymore. This is, the world's affected.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
We're doing this series of interviews to look at different people and how they're committed to community with different actions.
Yeah.
And in this whole notion of pride, what was your starting point? What was that first moment that you felt proud or you felt connected to the community and you had some sense, sort of purpose?
I suppose my initial connection to the community wasn't positive. I had a really negative connotation of the community when I first came out, and that was through my own actions and through the actions of others. And once I got through that and changed my life, it was actually around marriage equality. And when marriage equality happened, it was this moment for me where I realized everyone was the same, and it didn't matter anymore. And I remember I was at work for a charity at the time, I saw the news, and I just burst into tears. Because it was that first moment of realization of, I can get married, I can do the things that I never actually thought I was going to be able to do, which was an amazing feeling just to be a part of, not just a part of the LGBTIQ community, but a part of the whole community. We weren't segregated anymore, we were a part of everyone else as well.
What was that negative start point and why was it negative?
So the negative start point for me was my initiation into the queer community was through nightclub scene and through, promoting and then working in the scene and bartending and then ending up running nightclubs. And with that, unfortunately, came a high drug use to the point where, I'm 6'2" and I was down to 62 kilos and I was an odd shade of yellow and my life was just, I was going to die. The amount of drugs I was using, I was going to die. And that went on for years and years and years. And the problem for me was, what my association with the community was okay, to be a young gay man, I have to take lots of methamphetamine, I have to drink all the time, and I have to be at every nightclub every night. That was what my view of the scene was, and I hadn't seen anything else. I didn't know anything else existed.
How was family reacting around that time?
So they had almost taken themselves away from me. It was almost like, okay, you're going and doing that. And in my mind, that was because I was gay. That wasn't because of my drug use. That wasn't because I was out of control. That was, I'm gay and that's why you're rejecting me. So I was going through that stuff as well, which also fueled internalized homophobia, because I had the desire to go, okay, if I could not be gay, would life be easier? And would all of this stuff happen? And would I, just be a guy who walks on the street and has a normal life and doesn't have all these issues going on? And what I learned today is all my issues had nothing to do with being gay.
I've met your parents.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool parents.
Yeah.
So, what happened? How did you manage to connect? Because when you do have that cool family, the disconnect can be really bad because there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
So how did you bring family back together?
So bringing family back together was a long process. It's taken 4 years for me to have, I suppose, a really good relationship with them, where it's an honest relationship and we talk about most things, probably not everything, but most things. Keep it simple. But what it took me to look at my life and go, what am I doing? And what's my part in this? What's my part in this situation? And let's be honest, if I was my parents, and I've had this thought because I've had friends who, are still using drugs the way that I used to use drugs, I can't imagine what it's like for my mother when I was in that lifestyle, waiting for the phone to go that I was either in jail or dead. Because so that disconnects completely. The torture I put them through for years, so what I had to do is accept that, apologize for it, first of all, change my life to show that I was apologizing for it. There's no point saying sorry. Sorry's a word. Do the action. And, continue to do that on a daily basis.
We're all very happy you didn't die, but did you make it to jail?
No, I didn't make it to jail. I got a few charges, which I was really lucky got suspended. So they all got locked away and my criminal history got downgraded, and that was great for me. But what it did was it made me realize that it was luck. There was nothing else involved in the fact that I didn't get charged than luck. And what I do today is I actually help people who come out of the prison system to get into employment and further on their lifestyle without that need to go back into the old ways and the old habits. But also, that's what fuels that, is a lot of these guys and girls who are coming out of the justice system have done things I've done. They just got caught for it.
Let's talk a bit more about that, because it's kind of a family business, family initiative. Like, you're all really heavily involved in that. And Fruit2Work, the name of the social enterprise, how did that come about, and what role does that play now in your sense of pride?
Yeah, absolutely. So Fruit2Work came about 4 years ago now. It was originally set up through two individuals who wanted to do something to give back to the community. They saw that the recidivism rates were really, really high in Victoria. We've got one of the highest in the country, which is just insane. And they went, okay, well, how do we help? So they created this little fruit and milk delivery business that was delivering 25 boxes of fruit and milk every week. Wasn't really doing anything. That then got sold into White Lion, which is a big not-for-profit organisation. That's where I was working at the time. And what we realised about nearly 2 years ago now was that within the White Lion ethos, Fruit2Work didn't work. White Lion are a youth agency. They only focus on young people. Fruit2Work focuses on anyone who's had a criminal history, anyone who has been impacted by the justice system. So you don't have to go to jail, but you could have had a CCO. You could have had a drug problem that would have impacted you by the justice system. There's lots of things that we'll look at and go, okay, we'll give you an opportunity because someone else might not. So we took that over about 2 years ago now. It was one of these weird moments with my dad where I went, okay, we're going to do this together. And it was like, is this a smart idea or is this the worst idea we've ever had? We still don't quite know the answer to that. When we've left White Lion, we've absolutely skyrocketed in growth. And we've started to diversify. So what my big thing is about diversity. So it's going, okay.
And you don't mean that in the gay sense?
No,
you mean
in the business sense. But one of the big things as well is I'm openly gay at work. Yeah. All the guys and girls who work for me know. Now, there's this theory that people who come out of prison won't respect you for that. They won't, they'll find that a really, horrible thing, and there's still loads of homophobia. I've never had one comment from any of the people in the team that makes me believe there's any homophobia with that. They completely accept me for who I am. They actually ask me, have I got a partner yet? What am I doing? Why am I not doing this? And it's an open conversation. The world's changing. I think for me, that's a massive sense of showing the community that we don't have to be scared to be who we are.
So, Fruit2Work and Milk2Work, what exactly does it do?
So Fruit2Work is an organisation that's not-for-profit social enterprise. What we do is we deliver fruit, milk, products to offices or creative spaces or wherever you actually want us to deliver it to, we'll deliver it, and infrastructure projects around Melbourne CBD and further out. So we've got about a 35K radius around the CBD that we'll deliver to. And everyone who's employed at Fruit2Work has been impacted by the justice system. Yeah. Okay, so what we do is everyone. Now that includes...
I like that, impacted by the justice system. Yeah. So what does that mean?
So impacted is the justice system's affected your life in some way, shape or form.
So you don't have to go to jail.
No.
You could be impacted in a more in an indirect way.
Yeah, and we've had that. We had a young girl working for us for a while doing our admin who both her brothers had gone to jail. Yeah. So she'd still been impacted by the justice system. It's a weird environment. Most people go, we need to do a crim check, and if anything comes up, you don't have a job. We go, we need to do a crim check, and if something comes up, that's a bonus. That's a bonus. We've got young guys who, have done CCOs or have had really intense drug problems and would have ended up in the justice system. Yeah. One of the things I'm really passionate about is let's not put an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff when someone jumps. If we can stop them from jumping, that's probably a better solution.
Do you think activism has changed? That traditional notion has changed, and why do you think that has happened? And after you answered many questions, do people realize that they're activists?
So I'll start with, do people realize they're activists? No. Because activism has changed. Yeah. Activism doesn't need to be the person standing on the street corner anymore shouting and blaring about what they think is right. Activism can be really simple stuff. One of the campaigns that just came out was the black square on Instagram. It was a really clever idea, it went viral and it worked really well. It's a form of activism. Yes, it's not massive activism, but it's a form of activism. For me, I do a lot more than that. My story is really public and I make it really public intentionally. Anything I can do and anything I can get in front of to say that, you don't have to be going through what you're going through and you can change is a massive thing to do. And that's, I think the power of your story is the most powerful form of activism you can have. If you can take what you understand and what is you, because it's real, it's authentic, it's who you are, and give that to someone as a reason that something has to change, it hits a different note than going, these are the statistics.
So it's the authenticity of the online conversation rather than just participating in hashtags that makes a difference.
100%.
Are you feeling the change at the moment? Beyond Fruit2Work and Milk to Work, are you feeling that? I feel particularly this month that something is happening, and although it's a feeling of anxiety, it's also a very positive, hopeful feeling. Do you feel that, or is that a constant in your life because you act all the time?
Yeah, it's probably a constant in my life. I'm always striving for that. So I'm always striving to go forward more and more and more. And the biggest thing for me is helping others. It always has been, and that's in my work life, in my private life. I mentor young men, to get out of addiction. It's all around me. But I think there's a change at the moment, and whether that be internationally or whether that be within Australia, which is people are starting to have conversations we've never had before, and people aren't scared to have those conversations anymore. And humanity is becoming humanity rather than really secular. Yeah. So I think with COVID-19, with all the stuff that's happening in America, everything that's going on around the world at the moment, we have a sense of humanity all of a sudden, where we're all actually affected. This is not, I live in Australia, so this doesn't affect me anymore, or I live in the UK, so it doesn't affect me anymore. This is, the world's affected. Yeah. And it's made everyone go, wow, we're all the same.
To make you feel proud.
If you had like a magic wand, what would change between this interview and next year's Pride Month? What would be the first thing that changes?
What would be the first thing that changes? For me, the first thing that would change is, and I'm an activist for this, and that's why I think it needs to change, is that young gay men don't go through what I went through. They don't feel that their only connection to community can be a nightclub or a sex club with lots of alcohol and lots of drugs involved, that there's a wider community. And I think what's happened is for a long time, the LGBT community is hidden in the shadows. So the clubs and everything are massive. They're the front banner of what we do. But what I've only realized in the last year is we have book clubs and we have swimming teams and we have
movie clubs.
Yeah, all this stuff that I never knew existed.
Yes.
And I think what will help with that is we've got the Pride Centre being built in St Kilda. We've got some stuff going on which should help with putting us in the forefront of that. But I think what Melbourne has that not a lot of cities have is we're accepting compared to a lot of cities. So if you look at places, I've lived in Sydney. Sydney, there's most, of us live in one area, and that's what we do. We live in one area, where in Melbourne, we don't do that. We kind of spread across.
If your dad was here, or your mum, what would you like to say to them?
What would I like to say to them? To my dad, and this is a conversation we've actually had recently, is that even though I know he's proud of me, I'm really proud of him as well, because he's been able to change. He's been able to see things from a different perspective, and especially over the last couple of years, he's become a lot less of a tyrant and a lot less ruthless, especially when it comes to business, because that was his mindset. That was his mindset, to become more understanding, especially in what we do now. Originally there was this thought that if someone gets a job and goes to the gym, they'll be okay. Whereas now he's actually sitting in a space of going, okay, so we need to get someone in to look at counselling services, and we need to get someone to look at mental health, and we need to get someone to look at this rounded image of a person rather than an individual thing. And to my mum, really simply, thank you for always being there. Mum never gave up. Dad, I think, nearly gave up at a lot of points. Mum never gave up. She knew that one day I was going to come back and do something different.
Well, this touch. And what would you say to young Cam before he got caught in the scene?
Don't be afraid to be who you are. You have a choice. It's not scary. It's not at the end of the world. It's who you are, and you just need to live that life. You know, there's a vast amount of things you can do out there. Would I change anything I've done is a big question I always ask myself. No. And I actually wouldn't, because what has happened to me allows me to be here today and allows me to help other people today. Yeah. You know, and I think that's really important. You know, I wouldn't say to him, don't do drugs or don't drink alcohol or don't do this or don't do that. Would I say maybe tone it down a bit? Absolutely. But, you know, the roller coaster of life I've been on so far allows me to have the knowledge to help someone else today.
Happy Pride. Say hi to your parents from me.
I will. Happy Pride.